Guys, I am so excited that you are here for the very first ever edition of Blossoms and Bourbon. Welcome to this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I'm so excited that you decided to join us again. Hello friends, welcome to this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Welcome back to the next episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Friends, welcome back for another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Hey, welcome everybody. So glad that you could be back again for this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Friends, welcome to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Friends, welcome to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Welcome, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hey, friend. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Hello, friends. Welcome to the 20th episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. Woo! 20 episodes. That's kind of amazing. So, I'm so appreciative to you guys for watching and continuing to watch. Be sure, if you're interested at all in our series, to like and subscribe it. Make comments. I love to read those comments and hear from you in terms of what you like about the work. If you're interested in it, if you have questions about it, I would love to know that as well. And be sure and hit the bell icon too, because that will notify you about upcoming episodes. A quick shout out to my friends at Shalane Embroidery, who took our Blossoms and Bourbon logo and made these beautiful embroidered aprons. I'm just happy and honored to wear them. Charlotte and Greg, you guys are amazing, and I appreciate your work so much. Thank you. All right, so mechanics, I just kind of drill that in the head. It's just so important. And one of the things that obviously we do here in the shop a lot is event work. And as we're doing event work, you find that you sometimes are doing multiples of arrangements. Sometimes you have maybe even only 3 or 4, but you want to do some prep early in advance. So that's partly what this episode is about, is how you can prep in advance. So if you have an event in your home, or if you're doing it for a club or organization, this I hope will be helpful to you. We are actually going to make a little sort of hand-tied bouquet all out of greenery. And the greenery is actually going to become the mechanic for the arrangement. It's a really super easy way. It's a quick way to prep for, like I was saying, for an event. And I'm going to show you how that works. Yeah, holidays are coming full steam ahead. So as you can see, I'm using some winter greens. I've got some arbor vitae or cedar. I've got some white pine. And I'm going to use those materials to prep what will be a design for a Christmas event. So just like when you're doing any arrangement, all of the foliage that is going to fall below the line of the water should be removed. That's something that's just, 101, very important. You guys know that so well by now. The other thing is, and I'm doing this so that you can actually see it tonight, this is much like the hand-tied. So you really want to prepare your materials before you start working and get everything kind of ready, get it stripped down so that those bases of the stems are nice and clean from foliage and they're ready to go in the water. So I'm just going to do a couple more, and then I think we'll be all set to get to work. The beauty of white pine is that it has these nice clean stems already. So keep that in mind when you're planning. Use materials that are friendly to you and that will help you out. All right, so we're basically just going to do this little grouping of materials in our hand. The cedar has definitely got some more volume to it. And unlike the hand-tied bouquet, the formal hand-tied, this really doesn't have to be built in a spiral because it's not going to be that important for this application. I did include some of this parvifolia eucalyptus just because I kind of like the color of it. I like the texture. That's one of the things that's really important about this. You have this beautiful kind of soft texture of the white pine. You have the little more dense but tiny texture of the cedar, and then the rounded kind of silvery gray leaves of the eucalyptus. It's a nice, nice combination. So what we're going to do is just keep adding that up until we get to the point where you like it, where I like it. That little stub end you might not be able to use in something else, but in this application, look at that, it works great. All right. That was too tall. We'll save that for a special project for later. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. And the bundle itself is about this big. This is the container I'm going to be using. So I don't want to fill up so much of the container with the greenery. This is just the mechanic for it. So we want to be sure to leave plenty of room for our flowers too. So I'm basically going to just take this little bit of bind wire. I'm going to twist around just like we would when we're finishing a hand tied to kind of bind this in place. Keep all that together. You do want to make sure it's nice and tight. I will trim those loose ends off of that. And if that bind wire gets wet, it's not a problem at all. That paper may, kind of let go and not be as important to the hold, but it'll be fine in terms of making sure that the greenery is secure. All right, so let's get this. Let's add some more water. Be sure and post your questions if you have questions about what I'm doing. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, so we're just gonna kind of do like a little quick measure. So it looks like everything will fit in there at about that length. At about that length. That was a good kind of like eyeball, right? I am going back up into the bundle to cut some of those pieces that are a little bit shorter to make sure that once they're in the water, they will take up water. If they've sealed over, it wouldn't be good for the end result of the arrangement. All right, now we're gonna just plop it in. And there we go. That's actually the prep. So the important part about this is, look, I mean, that's already pretty. And so what you've done is you've prepped the container. You can do as many of these as you need to. Very often we will have 10, 12, 20, 30, whatever the case may be, depending on the event. We'll stash these in the cooler on Monday or Tuesday, have them ready to pull out later in the week to put the flowers in for the event. So you can do this as well. Keep them in your garage if it's nice and cool in your garage, and you'll have things ready to go. That's something that easily can be done well ahead of time. So this container is one of my favorite containers, by the way, to use just because it's elevated. It's got this nice sturdy stem, so we don't have to worry about it toppling over. And we're going to make something fun for Christmas. All right, I'm going to get some flowers. Who out there likes chartreuse green as a part of your Christmas decoration colors? Thank you very much. I do as well. It's beautiful. We're going to have white stock in this. Stock is a great flower. If you don't use this much, it has a lovely fragrance like cloves. So it's really, really, really awesome. All right, so we're gonna do some berries because what Christmas arrangement would be complete without berries? And some Gerbers and some Scabiosa. Such a fun flower. All right, so remember, we're going to go establish the vertical height and width of our arrangement with the first 2 or 3 insertions. So you can see what I did already was I just kind of snuck that Bells of Ireland right in along the side of that greenery. So that greenery is helping hold it in place. And you will get to a point, and you'll see me have to deal with that too, where sometimes the greenery, you're going to be trying to put the stem in, and you're actually going down into the middle of the bundle. No bueno, obviously that's not going to work. So you just want to work it around, but obviously that greenery is going to work as the mechanic for holding the arrangement together. I really, in my mind, as I'm thinking about this arrangement, I just want it to be kind of loose and whimsical, kind of fun. I don't want it to be too formal. This would be great on your kitchen island if you're entertaining. It would be great on a food station if you're having your event in a venue in town. That would be totally cool. Sometimes what will happen with stock is because of the weight of that bloom, you see you get that little curve to it. So it's totally fine to take advantage of that and, try not to fight against it actually. Let that work for you and become a part of your design. Can you see how we're already kind of building some volume to that so that it's spread out, partly because of the shape of the stalk, and that lovely greenery bundle is keeping things nice and in place in there. All right, I wanted that to kind of look like that was a center insertion without actually going down through the middle of the greenery. So we've got that one there. And another one there. You've seen me use this product before. It's hypericum berries, commonly called coffee berry. It's a great product. Long lasting, beautiful way to give some texture. I don't know about you, but sometimes at Christmas I have trouble finding really beautiful holly berries. And if I want to put red berries in a Christmas arrangement, this is a great way to do it without having to worry about the supply of holly. We've also talked about how important it is to keep foliage out of the water. As you are placing these stems for this arrangement, you're probably going to see that there's going to be some foliage that's going to get smooshed down in there. It's just going to be a natural thing that happens as you're putting the flowers in. The beauty of this is because there's no tape grid or anything like that on the top of the vase, you can simply lift this up. You can pull any greenery out that you need to pull out and go right back to work. Or you can do that at the end of your arrangement, whatever you prefer. All right, let's add some Gerbers. Be sure and tell me in the comments if you guys have a favorite flower that you kind of associate with Christmas. And don't say poinsettia, okay? I think that might be cheating if you say poinsettia. Although they're beautiful. Is there another flower that you associate with that holiday? If you probably have noticed, I like working on a turntable, especially if the arrangement is going to be one that is going to be seen from all around. What that does with the turntable is it allows me to look at it from a viewpoint of all around. If you're working with it stationary in one place, it's very hard to get the perception of what it's going to look like all around. So don't hesitate to do that. Gonna tuck a couple of red roses in there. Yeah, I kind of want those kind of inside for a little bit of red low down. So it's kind of like peeking out there. I don't know if I mentioned this to you a second ago, but this little gizmo is called a thorn stripper. It's beautiful. Those two little V's just connect on the stem, and then you can simply pull down the stem and it removes the thorns. It'll also remove foliage. So I was using that on the cedar especially to kind of pull the extra leaves off the cedar. It's a great way and really, really fast to do that. All right. Now I'm going to tuck in just a little bit more of this eucalyptus because I'd like a little bit more around the edge for a little more flow. And we can also do the same thing with the white pine. Again, to kind of add more volume and kind of open up the arrangement a little bit. Easy way to do that. The beauty of doing this is you can just play with it until you get it the way you like it. Now, this guy, let's put him up in the center. And I can see from the side don't know if you guys can see that or not. See where that stem is? So I can see that he is in the water, so we're good as far as that goes. But that adds another element of that foliage kind of up in the arrangement, which is kind of fun. Oh yeah, there's a good one. All right, and last but not least, I'm going to put these scabiosa in there just because they have these beautiful shaped stems. Yeah, can you see me trying to get that stem in? I'm hitting that little bundle of greenery inside there. So I need to just adjust a little bit left or right so that it'll snug in. There we go. All right. I think I may like a little more white down along the edge. So what I'm going to do is use the stock. I'm going to cut the stem a little bit shorter so that when I make the insertion, it's going to kind of go across and hit the vase on the other side. That way I'll be sure that it's in the water, but it's going to be a more lateral insertion. So it's going to kind of come out the side like that. Okay. I think I'm liking that. These are a little close together here, so let's move that over. Everything looks good there. Well, I think we're ready for the party. I think that looks good. Just a fun kind of gathered arrangement, which really follows along nicely to the whole fact that we gather the greenery in our hands to make the mechanic. So that's nice and secure. That arrangement, you know, will stay nice and in place, certainly through your event or whatever. And just using that little bundle of greenery is a great way to prep and get things ready for an event. So, and as you're getting ready for the event, you may want to have a drink. And certainly if you're planning an event that there's going to be a drink at, then plan bourbon for sure. So the bourbon that we're going to be tasting right now is called Frying Pan Shoals. It is from the Cape Fear Distillery that's located in Elizabethtown, North Carolina. I have two folks on my staff who were vacationing in that area, and they saw this and realized that it was from a local distillery in North Carolina. So they brought the bottle back to me so that I could try it and then share it with you. So I'm happy to do that. Elizabethtown, North Carolina. This Cape Fear is actually named for, and the shoals are named for these sandbars that are off the coast of North Carolina. And it was called Cape Fear because back in the day, people who were sailing in that area were afraid that they were going to get stuck on the sandbars and, you know, would end up perishing there. So that's apparently how this area got its name. The shoals refers to the sandbars. And this is definitely a rye bourbon. This has, the mash bill has corn, barley, and rye in it. It's aged for 2 years in charred oak barrels, from what I can find in my research. I have never tasted this before. I couldn't find a lot online about tasting notes for it. So Jason and I are going to go in hard and just see if we can figure it out. Meanwhile, while we're doing that, be sure to like and subscribe to our videos and hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when we have new episodes that come out. Okay? And by the way, I think that whoever did the marketing for this and did the bottle design did some really cool stuff. There is a little fish hook that's a part of every bottle. If you look at the sides, it says full tide, half tide, heart aground. So completely dry and heart aground. I think that's super cute. A little lighter colored, a little more kind of ambered caramel color on this one. So it looks good. Definitely, and this is typical for my palate, I get a little bit of cinnamon note when I'm, when the bourbon is a rye that has a little more spice to it. And there seems to be a little bit of that chocolate that I sometimes have happen with nosing. Okay, let's try it. Honestly, I'm a little surprised it's not as harsh as I thought it was going to be, knowing that it's a rye. And my palate typically responds to rye with a little bit of a, like, oh, that was hot. But this doesn't seem bad. Definitely still get the cinnamon notes, those baking spice notes, the cloves. I'm not picking up much fruit with this one. Not a very long finish, and definitely, again, for me, it finishes in the back of my throat, where typically the rye, spicier bourbons will on my palate. So, Laura and Tracy, thank you so much for the bourbon. I'm excited to introduce it to people here on YouTube, and appreciate you guys so much. So I guess that about wraps up this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I so appreciate you being here. Please like and subscribe to the videos. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified. And until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks for joining us.